Hello, my name is Matt Ballant. This is a recording of a session I gave at the Elevate 2019 conference regarding the RibbonBar control, which is a new UI component for PowerBuilder applications. Here's a standard disclaimer. Basically, this is still a work in progress, this control, so anything you see here is subject to change. Again, my name is Matt Ballant. I'm currently a PowerBuilder developer for LabCorp, and I've been a PowerBuilder developer for many, many years in many businesses, many different industries, quite a bit of healthcare and insurance, as well as logistics and shop floor automation experience. So the RibbonBar control. It's completely new and brings PowerBuilder applications into a more modern UI style. It's designed really to replace menus, and it's similar in its appearance to the ribbon bars, which are on many applications, probably most famously the Microsoft Office suite, where you have a large bar along the top of the application window with these different groupings of functionality within the application. Now, again, this largely replaces any menu bar and toolbars that have been used in the past. And the idea is to be able to hide from the users these extremely large and long lists of things that are not very frequently used. I'll show you an example of something like that in just a moment. Here's an example of a menu in an application that's been around for a long time. And quite often, the initial intent of this menu might have been one thing, but over the years it's morphed into just this jumbled listing of things as more and more functionality has been bolted on over the years to this application, and no real reorganization of the menus has ever taken place. So this may be fine for someone who's used this application for quite a long time, but if you were, say, a new hire or newly transferred employee and you started using this application, trying to find out or trying to learn how to do different things is extremely difficult when presented with a menu like this. So here's an example of the RibbonBar control. And as you can see, it has a variety of different sub-objects, if you will, categories, large and small buttons, combo boxes, check boxes, radio buttons, panels, groupings of things. And all of this is defined by either an XML template or programmatically created in PowerScript. Here's a list of the controls on a RibbonBar. Now, I'm not going to go into each and every one of these things because with this version of PowerBuilder, Appian has provided a very excellent demo database which demonstrates how to create and manipulate this RibbonBar control. And it's highly recommended that if this is something that you're interested in pursuing within your own applications, it's highly recommended that you load the demo database and take a look at the code contained within it, because it will really help you understand what you need to do in order to transition from menus to RibbonBar. One of the things that's added to the tools option in Power Builder is what's called a RibbonBar Builder. And this is a tool which allows you to create the XML template, which can be saved as a file and used directly within your application, or used as a resource for testing other things. And this is an example of the RibbonBar within the sales demo application. Fairly straightforward. This is some of the XML that's created by the RibbonBar Builder, and this is all standard things. You can see where you designate your like a picture objects, assets, and what method gets executed on a clicked event, those sorts of things. Okay, so now I'm going to go and actually bring up these objects, and we can take a look at them. So here's the sales demo application. And what the heck, let me just run it, get a better idea of how this works. So here's this, maximize this. No, I don't want to do that. Oh, it is what it is. So here's our different options within here. You can do different things. Security groupings, you know. It's your standard application here. There's nothing unusual about this. But let's go to the guts of this. Now, here's our MDI window. Here's our RibbonBar control. Now, the RibbonBar control is going to automatically resize widthwise based on the size of the window. So you don't have to do that, any kind of logic in regards to that. It's going to automatically resize itself. Within the control itself, you know, it has a built-in theme you can use. You can use this in conjunction with your overall application theme, something that's been added relatively recently to Power Builder by Appian. Now, the other properties are, you know, pretty basic here. There's nothing unusual about any of this. So let's go and look at some of the code. Let's look at our events. These are the events that are all predefined and are referenced when either in the XML or programmatically when we create the RibbonBar. These are all events here. What I like about events is if you define an event or you designate that event should fire, for example, but the event isn't defined, nothing's going to happen. You're not going to get an ugly error, or the application isn't going to terminate due to some null reference. An event, just if it's not there, it doesn't fire, nothing happens. So I really like that as well. If you make some mistake when doing your application, it's not going to die because you made a mistake or you got a typo in an event name. And the events themselves is all standard PowerScript. I'm not going to go through that because that's all standard stuff. So let's go into, on this particular form, there's an initialization. Now in this demo here, this part is uncommented, and so they initialize this by sending in a true flag, so it loads this RibbonBar from an XML file. And I asked the question of the Appian Technical Resources, is there any real performance difference between generating the RibbonBar from an XML file versus doing it programmatically? And I was told really that there is not. So it's not like you building it, other than it taking you the time to code it. There's really no real difference in terms of how your application will react. But here's kind of the same thing. We're setting up our panels. Here's a large button. Here's what it says. Here's the graphic for it. This is the event that gets fired upon it's clicked. And that's pretty straightforward. Just going through creating all of these. You can put tip text, power tips, that sort of thing. You have your various properties you would expect, enable, disable, that sort of thing, visible, all that kind of stuff, all the things we've been doing for many years in PowerBuilder. So there's not anything really that unusual here, other than the process of doing it, and then learning the process of how to manipulate it when you're using the application. So let's go into the RibbonBar Builder just to show you this application and how it works. So here we have our our standard XML. This is like a preview of what the thing is going to look like. And I just wanted to demonstrate, let's say I make a mistake. I forget to close quote that. And you'll see I get an error down here. I also get a visual indicator that, hey, there's something wrong here. Yeah, and I mean, the actual error message is not much use, but for purposes of this demo, I just wanted to show you that it did create an error. And this is also an example here in this particular order button. I have a jumbled up event name. There's no event by this name here, but it's still fine. It's still going to load. It's still going to work. But when I click on that button, just nothing's going to happen. And here I have another mistake down here in UE sec group. So these are just little changes I made during the course of showing this at the conference. And this is all standard stuff here. You can check your XML formatting if you're typing it in manually, selecting your different items. You can save it, cut and paste, that kind of stuff. You can also save it as a big PowerBuilder string. One of the techniques you could use when manipulating this is just going through it, having it as an instance variable in your application or something of that nature, and then searching and replacing events and pictures and that sort of thing as you need, and then reloading the XML back into the control. So this gives you the ability to save it as a PowerBuilder string. So no, I'm not going to save that. So again, as I said earlier, I would highly recommend you load the demo application. Let's go and look at the PowerBuilder help. So here's a section here in the new features, new RibbonBar control. The help file is really quite excellent, I feel, for this particular object. It gives you very detailed information. There's even a kind of a walkthrough of the demo in this working with the RibbonBar, how to create it, how to replace, gives you how to replace your existing menus with this control. I mean, it's really, really well done, and it covers a lot more information than I could ever have hoped to cover in a relatively short demo of this new control. So I would highly recommend you download the demo database. You will need a copy of SQL Anywhere to run it, and you can get a link to a trial version of that from Appian. It's available from SAP. If I would not bother to try to find it on SAP's website. I tried that and could only find client SQL Anywhere client versions. I could not find the full package that actually has a database engine in it. So rather than save yourself from frustration and just go and ask Appian if they could provide you the link to that, and have that loaded on your machine prior to loading this new version of Power Builder, and it will then install the demo database for you. Again, this is a new feature in 2019 R2, which is not scheduled to come out for, I believe, another 4 to 6 months. I'm not 100% sure on that timeline, so things are subject to change. One of the items I asked about the control was, why is it being saved in XML? Shouldn't I have the option of saving it in JSON? For those of you who have done any work in the new Power Builder themes, that information is stored in a JSON. So I was kind of wondering why the two different formats. But I was told again by Appian technical folks that you should be able to save it either way. So that's something right now that isn't in the product, and I would assume that it's going to be added later. That finishes this session, and thank you very much for your attention.